for the next 55 minutes or so. What we'll try to do is provide you a good picture of what's been happening and the kind of things you need to know, right? Because if you follow anything AI, Gen AI on LinkedIn or wherever, it feels like every single day there is something happening and the world is changing every single day. And if you miss something, it feels like you're missing everything, right? So I'm trying to kind of remove some of the noise and try to get you to see the main points rather, right? What's important and why it matters. So that's the idea. Some key insights for decision makers so that through this session, you get a fair sense of where we are and what it means for you. That's the key idea. And a brief about me. So I imagine most of you know me, but still, I'll go through this. So I've about 15 years of data science, AI, ML experience now. It's been called different things, but I think I've taken all the data science roles. So from data analyst to data scientist or decision scientist to whatever, right? All of the roles. And it also gives me a fair sense of, different kinds of things, different kinds of tasks in data and AI. I've worked in e-commerce majorly. Before that, I was in pharma consulting mainly. And I have fair amount of education experience as well. So I've been an educator. I've been a subject matter expert in AI and ML with practically all the top edtech platforms in India that you have heard of. Visiting faculty, also corporate trainer. I'm also a technical mentor for startups on the topic of Gen AI, particularly at an accelerator program, India Accelerator. And I've gotten the opportunity to write 3 books, working on the fourth, which should be out soon, hopefully. And that's it, right? But I describe myself as just someone who is solving business problems using data science or AI. And I do whatever it takes. Sometimes it needs me to create a state-of-the-art model. I do that. Sometimes it just needs me to make a very well thought out pivot table in Excel. I do that, right? Whatever it takes. And of course, I love teaching, and that's why I'm here. That's about me. And this talk, let's talk about this talk then, right? We will, because it's still a small group, let's have discussion. That's easier in a smaller group. Please feel free to ask questions, raise your hand, put it in chat, and feel free to take screenshots or whatever. Just make sure when you take the screenshots, my face is not in a very weird expression. Someone did that today and it was a bit weird. Anyway, I will mention a few solutions or a few things, and they're not recommendations. They're more like, okay, this is what is happening out there, right? So that's about the talk. But yeah, the main thing is I encourage you all to it's a small group. So please feel free to raise your hand, put something in chat and, discuss. Right. And before that, what are your expectations, or are there any particular topics that you would personally find valuable in this discussion today? Just let me know in chat, or you can unmute as well. And anything specific you're looking for.
Rahim, I just want to discuss recently the DeepSeek is one which is a super trend in the LinkedIn and wherever you talk about, see or talk and all those things. Okay, and how is this going to be a revolution in the Gen AI space? Okay, and I saw in the LinkedIn couple of guys. I think he is the CEO of Perplexity, and other IIT professors, Mayank
Human
or
resources.
something, are discussing create a model from India also. Okay, similar to this one. So I just want to know, or I mean, the forum or you can say how it is going to be a 1 year down the line. I mean, 2 or 3 years is very big leap with the current space where GenAI is moving. I just want to know.
Sure. Thanks, Prem. I think that is the first point. I mean, DeepSeek will be the first topic we cover, because initially this was not planned in the session, but there's so much activity around DeepSeek. Maybe it makes a lot of sense to address this, because it's just crazy, right? The amount of hype and amount of In fact, misinformation made by influencers, it's really bad. So I thought maybe it's a good time to discuss that as well. Okay, anyone else would like anything else to be covered?
Yeah, so for me, I'm approaching it more from a managerial or workforce analysis point of view, in the sense that I work in human resources with a bank, and I want to understand where is the technology heading,
Yeah.
what are the capabilities, like where are they going, what can it do, what can it not do, um, how fast do we think that reasoning capabilities or true reasoning capabilities might come by. Things like
Mhm.
just to understand what is probably hype and what is solid fundamental, what is real.
All right. It's a fair point. Yeah, let's also cover that. Yeah, I'll be covering that as well to some extent, but towards the end, maybe I can take some dedicated time for just that point. Yes. Okay. All
So
right.
thanks.
Then let's get started. Okay. And the first thing will be DeepSeek because let's get it out of the way, and then we can continue with the other. Once that is out, we can continue with um, the more I think pertinent or the more general trends that we see. Right. And we talk of agents, and which is again a very hot topic for this year. It is going to be the topic for this year. The key developments in the past year, and also a bit about AI regulation. Not too much time, but just some big updates that we should be aware of. And let's begin with the big topic, DeepSeek. And what is DeepSeek and what is all this commotion about, and why in the world did Nvidia go down like 17% and wipe off $500 billion, right, from its market cap? So let's discuss DeepSeek. And what are we talking about first? First, DeepSeek released a set of models. Um, One was DeepSeek V3, which is a large multi-purpose model, uh, rather big actually. I think it's 865 GB or something. Okay, a rather big model. Then there was a very specific model for reasoning called DeepSeek R1. This is also big, right? But it is focused on reasoning, right? So the whole whatever Chat GPT has been on about, right? Like O1 and O1 Pro, and we are excellent at reasoning. DeepSeek R1 challenges that. And then there is Janus or Janus Pro 7B. This was released yesterday, I imagine, yesterday or day before yesterday, in late night or whatever, but yesterday practically, which is a model for image generation, multimodal. So it understands images, creates images, and so on. Okay, and for the reasoning models, there's a huge big version, like 800 GB or whatever, but there's also very smaller models as well. So a model with 1.5 billion parameters. Now that billion parameters doesn't make a lot of sense in general, but just to understand, but you can imagine it as something which is less than 1 GB or 2 GB kind of size, or it's something which can be run effectively on even mobile phones. Or I don't know if you already saw this, someone ran it on a Raspberry Pi um, at a very good rate, good speed of output. So they have not only the top end models, but also they created smaller distilled or smaller versions of it, which are all there, right? And these things are all open. Okay, so they are top performance models. So already, um, the other big open source before this was Meta's Llama, right? It was practically, when you thought open source models, you defaulted to Llama 3, whatever. And now this DeepSeek's models are actually far ahead of Llama. In fact, for the text part and the reasoning part, they are on par with Chat GPT, OpenAI's um, right? O1, right? Essentially. So OpenAI's O1 is super expensive, right? With closed system, no one has access to this, no one even knows what it is. And this thing here is just out there. It is open source, it is available to everyone. And it has the same, let's say, performance, right? Similarly, the vision model, Janus Pro, that they released is actually the best. It's not like very close in some things, better in something. It's actually just surpasses DALI 3 or whatever, right? Whatever other models are out there. So it is definitely the best model for image generation stuff. So what we're talking about is open source models, which are really good. And if you see this chart, might not be so clear to read, but just to give you a sense, the blue bars, the blue ones are DeepSeek, okay? The gray one, the next to the right next to the blue one, that is OpenAI O1 from December, okay? And don't worry about the others so much. But what you can see already is that DeepSeek is very close to OpenAI's O1, right? At par or slightly higher in one, slightly low in one. But yeah, overall, you can say it's the same level of performance as OpenAI's O1, which is the best model they have right now. So that's what we are talking about. And this thing is available at a fraction of the cost of closed source. So if OpenAI has something like, if some particular task costs you 20 euros with $20 with OpenAI, that same thing will cost you maybe 50 cents with DeepSeek. So extremely cheap. Okay. And let me see if this works, because owing to the very high volume of traffic on DeepSeek website, it's not working so well. It's just down, and you just constantly get like error occurred or something like that. But maybe so I can share this link with you all as well. You can try it out yourself later. But I think right now, because of the traffic, it's just not working very well. Okay. In any case, I'll share this link. Maybe I can try this as well. Human verification and so on. So this is one way to try it out on the DeepSeek website itself. Please work, please work. It's just down basically. There's so much traffic to it. It very quickly became I think it has more downloads. It is a higher rate of download than ChatGPT itself. So this is now becoming like a super popular thing, right? So in a very short span of time. And if I go, in fact, this is the other place where this model is available. This is Hugging Space. And you can see that there are these models available here, all right? And you can also come here. You can also try out the models. I can share this link also. So when you go on a particular space, for example, chat with, say, DeepSeek Coder, for example. This is more for coding, right? And there's a chatbot. So you can come here, whatever, snake game using Pygame. And this is excellent for coding. And you see right now the application is too busy. Keep trying. So right now things will not work so well. Maybe you wait for some time and it works. But yeah, you could also log into DeepSeek and create an account and still try it out. That's also an option. But essentially, you could try this out yourself. At this point, just too heavy traffic, and we can't. But yeah, but these are super useful things, super powerful, and they are available at a fraction of the closed source cost. Right? There is the pricing of this. There is a technical paper, and what it also did was. Not only did they share the models, they made it like very open in the sense that they shared details about how exactly they made this. So that's really what is causing all the commotion. Okay, so overall, how we think about DeepSeek, right, is a top performing. We have a top performing open source, extremely cheap alternative to all the closed source by the big tech. Right. So what we're talking about is US had this dominance, right? On LLMs, and that's what really fueled all this. The dominant position the US had fueled all this growth in AI stocks and stuff like that, right? All the investment in AI and whatnot. And now we have this open source alternative, which is at the same level of performance, and it's just out there for anyone. And that is the big thing. And why is this a big deal in terms of open source? This thing is the closest thing we have had to open source right now. This is really the most open source thing right now. Nothing else comes close, because the training details are all shared. The models, the weights, the files, they're all there with you. So you are free to go and download it right now. You're free to modify it. You're free to create derived model because it comes with an MIT license, which essentially you can do anything. You can start making money out of it also, right? So what was supposed to be OpenAI is actually closed AI, and somehow this Chinese company is really truly doing open AI stuff. Okay? So this is where we are with this. And uh, within a few days, within a week of this reasoning model being up on Hugging Face Hub, this is one of the places where many of these models are hosted, right? Within a week, there are 550 versions of R1. So, that company released a model, and within 7 days, there are 550 variations of it, right? In different variations, and they collectively have more than 2.5 million downloads. So this that you see, what you see on the screen here, right? This is just not possible with OpenAI, right? OpenAI has a model. OpenAI closely protects it. Anyone who wants to use the model, it just has to pay, and no one can modify, no one can do anything. But this thing, what DeepSeek does is just kind of democratize this, right? It's just out there. I mean, it just gave it to everyone and just do whatever you want with it, right? And that is what spurs innovation, and that's what we're
Hey,
seeing.
Rahim, a couple of questions. Can I ask questions now in between?
Yeah. You can ask. I would have preferred if you had raised your hand because I got a bit
Oh,
kind of like
oh,
surprised by the loud sound. Sorry. Yeah,
yeah.
please go on.
I'm sorry about that. I'll do that next time. So, I have two questions. Number one is, oh, DeepSeek kind of first claimed that they trained this model somewhere in between 6 million to 100 million. So that was the estimate, which is much lower, of course, than OpenAI. Is that claim verifiable? Because Elon Musk apparently like kind of challenged it and so on. That's one question. Just to understand how is it really going to open the gates for AI, Gen AI adoption? Number one. Second is when you're saying there are these 500, 550 plus different versions of the model. So what does a different version of the model mean? Can you please help understand that?
Yeah. Okay. This could mean, okay, there's two parts, right? And I think both are connected because what you were talking about is initially the cost that you referred to, like 5 million or 6 million or whatever. That is the claimed cost of training a model, right? That's one thing. And let's come to that number itself. That number seems unlikely, by the way, just based on what I've seen other people discussing, and in general, it doesn't seem like a very likely thing. Maybe it is some particular part of the whole training process, but many like engineers are like, this is not feasible. And they estimate the actual cost to be 50 million or something. Regardless, I mean, it doesn't matter so much, I believe, because it's still much lower than what others are doing, right? It's still much lower cost. That's number one. The second thing is, for this whole opening up these models for innovation, you don't really need to train this from scratch, and that's exactly what you see on the screen right now. What you need to do is take that model. So if you see right now, the first row, the first bar, 8p. Okay, so there is a 8 billion parameter version, which is a kind of fairly small version of this, among the smallest version of this. People take the smallest version, and they don't need to train from scratch. They're taking that version, they're making some minor variations fine tuning it maybe for their particular purpose. So you start with a very good starting point, which is this R1 model, distilled to 8 billion parameters or whatever. And then you modify this for your particular task. And that way, you have your own slightly modified version now. And you have the weights with you. You can modify it even more if you want to, right? You can modify it as much as you want to, but it's with you, right? That's the point. And this is what I meant. So all of these are slight variations of the base model, and you're free to modify it further as well. And now imagine that, right? So with OpenAI, there was just this chat O1 or whatever. No one can do anything with it. But with this model, you can all get it. You can modify it, right? So that's really the beauty of it, right? Is it clear, Vivek?
Yes, that helps. Thank you.
All right. Yes, Prem, please go ahead.
I have a question. What do you mean here? Distill, llama, distill, queen, QWN. What is the mean here?
In simple terms, this means a larger model with a lot more, say, parameters and weights has been the knowledge of a larger model. Think of it as dimensionality reduction. The information of a larger model has been condensed into a smaller model with a bit of loss, right? A bit of loss. So think of that. Maybe it retains 85% of the information the older model had, but now it's a much smaller model with slightly less information contained. And because of this, it loses some predictive power also. Some performance maybe, right? That's what it means.
No. People will talk about distill. So I'm just to want to know what is the meaning of distill here. I mean, in general, when people say that a model is distill or something, so what is the meaning of distill? I didn't look into the web. Maybe you can help me to
Yeah, that's
understand.
exactly what I mentioned, right? I mean,
Okay.
distillation is uh, taking most of the information and getting it down to a smaller. So here
Okay.
in this context, so for example, a distill llama 8b, right? So in this context, it is a larger model, perhaps with 400 billion parameters. That information has been distilled down into an 8 billion parameter model, right? So that's what we're talking about in this case.
Okay, how people will do this distillation? I mean, is it a quantization of the model weights, or how it is done? Like if you see, normally what people will do quantization is people go with 32-bit precision or 64-bit precision, then go with 8-bit precision or into precision, so that the number of parameters will reduce basically. And then that's the way people what I understood from different people is that they take the model and they quantize to the 8-bit or 32-bit or whatever, I mean into one, and they can run that model on the Raspberry Pi and all those things. That is the way people will do when they want to run on CPU or something. So that is the meaning of distill, or is it a different way?
Let's maybe talk about this a bit later. There's a bit more
Fine.
detail to it. Yeah, but I think in this right now, let's not get that
Okay,
technical
fine.
because that's not the core aim of it, right?
Okay, fine. Okay, thank you.
Because, yeah, let's go ahead because anyway, DeepSeek is not the core topic. We can discuss it later. Yeah. Okay, but yeah, the coming back, I think this is the whole thing. We have to kind of come back to the big picture and not get lost in the details, because the big picture really is that um, some company, right? There is these big tech companies who are trying to maintain this dominance over, let's say, AI, right? A company by the name of OpenAI is opposite of anything but OpenAI, right? And now there comes a different company, and they've kind of democratized it in a big way. It's still not 100% open because we don't know the data which went in, but still, you have a lot of details about this, and this thing is now available at a fraction of the cost, right? And we don't know exactly what kind of infra they used, because we don't exactly what data they use, but still, what we know is that the output is very powerful, and this thing is super cheap. And this also raises the question, okay, so far what was happening was that we had bloated software, okay, and bloated software was getting more and more bloated, and the way to run bloated software is by adding more powerful hardware. And now the question is, okay, maybe the software doesn't need to be so bloated. So the natural question is, then maybe the hardware doesn't need to be so powerful, right? Maybe you could do with lesser, and that's what they claim as well. They did all of this with a bit older versions of the GPUs, right? So there's a lot of things over here, but the whole point is what I kind of like just mentioned, that it kind of challenges the idea that, okay, what the US is doing is the best way to do this, and now there are other players who can do this better, right? The cost will definitely go down, and this is an overall positive development, even if maybe OpenAI takes all of these learnings, and next time they come up with a better model, right, or a smaller model. So we don't know exactly how this plays out. It's maybe OpenAI still finds a way, Meta finds this way, and so on. But it's a good event which will make everyone review how they've been approaching this and perhaps be more, say, optimize things and be more parsimonious and judicious with the resources they have. Yep. So that's the thing. And let me see. Right. And this is maybe a bit of detail, but I don't think this is not for, I think, a lot of discussion. But for those who want a bit more technical understanding of what they did different, maybe this gives a sense. So one was the quantization part. So it's in a way, so in fact, quantization is not the accurate word, but still, 8-bit was a 32-bit representation. So they used an 8-bit representation, so which makes everything much more efficient. Then they used an efficient mixture of experts. Now, this mixture of experts is not a new thing, of course. Mixture of experts was done well by Mistral when they had this Mixtral models, right, which is a mixture of experts. So essentially, you can think of it as at all times, the entire model is not kind of being used. If you think of the whole model as subsystems, at any given point in time, there is a subsystem, which is like a section of the model, which is activated, right? And that's how the mixture of experts is used. So because at any given time, a section of the model is activated, this also means that the inference can be faster, inference can be faster, cheaper, and you might not need that specialized hardware. And having a good use of mixture of experts makes things like running this on CPUs, not only, let's say, hi-fi GPUs, but even consumer-grade CPUs is possible because of this mixture of experts. So essentially, instead of having one huge model where everything is active at all times, you can think of it as certain sections of the model being active at any given time, so that overall inference, training, everything is faster. This is the more general thing. Now, a bit more detail is that while all the models so far, or not all, but most of the models, big ones, were predicting only the next term or the next token so far. These are doing a multi-token prediction. So that itself automatically increases the inference speed. And a couple of other details is that in the other models, if you see the training steps, there is definitely a supervised fine-tuning part where there is human preferences and whatnot. But that has been done away with in this case. Now the supervised the human coming and giving feedback is always a bottleneck, of course. And this particular model has done away with that for at least one of the models, right? So it is purely a reinforcement learning based thing. So this is also something significant now. Human validation being a bottleneck is no longer the case. Anyway, and final small detail is that they did some further compression in the way the key value indices are stored, which just leads to further, say, efficiency overall, right? So this is more of a technical thing. It's perhaps, I think these are like some low level optimizations, I would say. But what's important is for general purpose stuff, what's important is that for researchers especially, the reinforcement learning giving you such good results is very important. And efficient mixture of experts is also an important development because it's been there for a while, but people are not able to use it that well or make it scalable this way. But this is a technical changes. Now, kind of, and this is what we learned so far is that this is a good model. There are some technical changes they have done. By the way, none of them are groundbreaking innovations. These are all of the things were already there. I mean, in fact, you can ask, okay, mixture of experts has been there for a year and a half or so by Mistral. What have they been doing? Right? Why didn't they make this? Why didn't they make it smaller and easier? Right? The quantization has already been happening and so on. So why wasn't anyone else able to do this? Right? That's really the question we have to worry about. Is like, why aren't the big tech companies optimizing these? Right? Why? So it's more like, and the mindset they have been taking is like, okay, fine, we don't need to optimize. Just throw more money, just throw more compute, and figure it out. We don't need that kind of innovation. They are focusing on different things basically. And this kind of challenges the whole notion that, okay, where you can still innovate, and there's a lot of room for optimization still. This is still very bloated, honestly. Right. Now, so with that, right, one concern people have with this is, this is a Chinese firm and I'm giving all my information to China. And that's, I think that's a very simplistic way to look at it. Let me kind of clarify. So there are three ways, at least three ways, main ways how people will use this, right, of using DeepSeek models right now. One, chat deployed by DeepSeek. So what you see, right? Either you go and download their app, or you go to the website which I was showing, right? You log in over there and so on. This is one way, right, where you are using their infrastructure essentially to run this. The second option is you download their models and you run it locally, right? So download it from the DeepSeek website, download it from Hugging Face, where like 68 models, not just these three, by the way. DeepSeek has many models, right? DeepSeek Coder model V1 was like 2023. And if you've been reading research papers in coding, it has always come up that, okay, this is a good model for coding stuff. So DeepSeek is not a completely new company. They have been doing open source models and stuff for a couple of years now, right? But these two models, which were more recent, they were kind of like big announcements, really, but they have been doing this for a while, for a couple of years at least. Okay? Yeah, so you could download this from the DeepSeek website or the Hugging Face website. Once it is on your machine, run it like a llama or whatever. Or you could use it when it is deployed by someone else, hosted by someone else. So for example, someone takes that model, fine tunes it or does something else, and then redeploys on their architecture or whatever, right, on their server. And you access their systems. And just as example, so Vivek, I'll come to a question, but just as an example, right? If those who use VS Code, VS, okay, there's an extension now called Kodo. So you add that extension on VS, your normal, code interface. There is an extension, and you're able to help take coding assistance. Or you go with Agent AI or something, right? You use some other system, some other platform to use VS Code, and these are three different ways of using this. Okay, I'll just complete this, Vivek, and then come to a question. And then now the question is, in each of the three methods, who gets your data, right? The first method, it's very clear. DeepSeek will get your data, right? So your data will be used for training their models and analysis or whatever, exactly like OpenAI, right? There's no difference in this regard. OpenAI also uses your data to train their models. This also does that, right? This is nothing like very different. The only difference here is that this goes to China, right? And that's why maybe people are a bit more alarmed or whatever. But yeah, DeepSeek gets that data, like you give it to OpenAI as well. Okay. Next, if you download and run locally, it's just you. You own everything. There is no major privacy risk. So if this is on your machine, it's on your machine. That's it. Nothing is going out. So that's the second way, which is much, much more secure. Third thing is, if you are using, let's say, a Kodo VS extension, then you are passing data to Kodo, right? And data is with them. And then that's the term. It has nothing to do with DeepSeek anymore. It's more like, what are the terms and conditions of Kodo? Like, where does Kodo store the data? Is it China? Is it like Brazil? Is it USA? It's up to Kodo. So this as well, right? This is nothing to do with DeepSeek as such. This is more to do with the platforms that you are using, through which you access DeepSeek. So overall, right, this whole thing about privacy has been blown out of proportion. First of all, regardless of which model you use, OpenAI or whatever, you should not add like personal information like your bank details or whatever, right? It doesn't matter. And these two other ways of access, nothing is going to, potentially nothing is going to China, right? And then it's just DeepSeek. When you use it directly, the data is on their servers. And that's a different question, what you prefer, giving it to China versus giving it to USA, especially if you're not living in the USA. Okay, so just to address that kind of a concern that, okay, where's the data really? And the answer is depends on how you access it. It can also be completely private, like a llama, for example. Okay. Question by Vivek. Please go on.
Thanks, Ryan. So my question is more from an output perspective. So my understanding is this model has been created keeping in mind Chinese sensibilities. For example, it apparently doesn't answer questions on Tiananmen Square or President Xi and so on. So there is an inherent, let's say, sensibility built into it. So the question is it possible to take that out, or do I have, to live with the fact that the output will be biased based on the sensibilities of the Chinese developer who has made it?
Okay, understood. Yeah, it's a good question. And I think the question you're asking in general applies to every model, right? Google has their own, guardrails in place. OpenAI has their own guardrails in place. All the models have their own guardrails in place, right? So I think the question is more of a general question. Can I take a model and change its behavior, right? Remove certain guardrails and stuff. For models like whatever Anthropic has or what OpenAI is giving you, there's nothing you can do. You just have to live with those, right? But if you download that model, all the weights onto your machine, or whatever, so your infra, and you are able, if you're okay to fine tune, then you can modify the behavior, right? You can change the guardrails as well. If you're using directly the chat interface that they have given, then there's nothing you can do, right? I mean, you can try to trick it, but that behavior is in place. But if you, in that regard, it is the same as OpenAI or Google, Gemini, or Anthropic, or whatever, right? There's no difference really, Perplexity. So it's as good or as bad as that. Now, question is, do you like Chinese sensibility more than US? That's a different kind of a question. But technically, I mean, they're all really have their own guardrails and their own political correctness baked into it. But yeah, if you download the models and you are able to play with the weights, you are able to further show it data and fine tune it and make it output certain responses, then yes, you can overcome those. And that way it is much better than OpenAI.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you.
All right. I think it's a main question is open source versus closed source. Once the moment something is open source, you can modify it, you can do whatever. All right. So I hope this was the last thing. I hope this helps give an overall sense of what this whole DeepSeek thing is, right? These are set of models. DeepSeek company has been publishing models for a couple of years, but the more recent models got a lot of attention because they are very high performance, very low price, which definitely challenges the business models of the bigger tech players, right? Also challenges the notion that, yeah, USA is the dominant player. It challenges the notion that so the hardware has to get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Because the software is bloatware, software is bloated and bloated, right? It challenges that notion as well, right? So that is really what's going on, and they have completely open sourced this, which opens up opportunities for all the other people to take a version and make it their own. And you see that within 7 days, having 550 versions on GitHub on Hugging Face. And if you see all other, maybe it's more than 1,000 versions already, right? So that's it leads to innovation. So that's why this is a big deal, and that's why you see all the reaction to it. Okay, now if there's no other questions about DeepSeek, let's go to the next topic. And let's see what is next. And we briefly talk about AI agents. And I assume most of you by now have some sense of what AI agents are, but I'll just still give a very brief overview, right? So in an AI agent, what we talking about really is a large language model having access to certain things. We know already that large language models like ChatGPT or whatever, these are really good in terms of processing the command I give to it, in terms of even reasoning, in fact, of breaking down a task into constituents, right? Planning or whatever. So this the idea is that this large language model can become a brain, and you provide tools to this so it does things. So you give it memory, long-term memory, short-term memory, or whatever, so that it processes. It has long-term memory. It also sees what's happening right now. Then you allow. It is already capable of reflection, or it's going through like a chain of thought, or reflecting on its own output, or and if you give a task, it is able to break it down into 10 subtasks and stuff like that. So it is already capable of doing all of this, right? So you uh, allow it to break something into sub goals, subtasks, and then this LLM should be also able to identify, okay, for this subtask, this is the tool I want to use. For this subtask, this is the tool I want to use. And you give it the access to the tools, right? So that's what this really is. So at the core is still the large language model. That's still the brain of this thing. But to this brain, now you have given memory, you have given now tools to it. And the idea is that these are so smart in general that they should be able to identify, okay, this is what I need to do next, and actually go ahead and do it, get the output from the previous one, and then continue executing, right? So this is really what agents are at the core. And they've been evolving quite a lot, right? The agents, when we started, I mean, even last year, we were still talking of, very basic agents, really, which weren't really able to do much. And very, very simple, really, browser, web, and stuff. But now, right, all the big ones, big companies and stuff have been doubling down on this, because that's where they see the promise of automation, right? Agents can truly automate uh, certain things, or certain things, I would say certain things are perfect for automation. And that's where agents are also uh, trying to be deployed, right? There are many tasks, really. Many tasks we do really don't require much agency. They are like very straightforward or whatever, or they can be rather automated with some back and forth, and agents are doing that. Anyway, so Microsoft did the whole Copilot Studio, and they're enabling anyone to build something, so as an agent of their own, which automates certain tasks. So if an email comes with this particular subject, you do this, go check there, you get the latest code, you add this, then you send it back to someone for review. Once you wait for the email, once the email comes in, you send out the final response. So all of these kind of things, which were rather just task after task, these things can be done easily by agents. And Salesforce did Agentforce, Microsoft did Copilot Studio. There's many developments, many big companies, and in fact now we are at a point. But I'm still not sure, how good these are, um, but there is definitely a lot of hype, and companies are using this hype very well. So in the past few months, 4 to 5 months at least, there's a lot of talk about AI employees now. And you can imagine these as very simple employees, like a simple team member who does some set of tasks. They're not so complex, but yeah, they're there. It's a system in your in your system, right? So there's a team chat. There is one more member in the team chat. You can interact with it. That member does some tasks for you and comes back, and so on, right? So the idea that in future you will have AI colleagues is coming up quite a bit. It's an interesting thing, and I do think that some of the things, right, which are straightforward, will be automated to a great extent. And we anyway anthropomorphize all of these things. So we try to put a face to it, like this thing, right? The future of AI employees, artisan. They put a name and they put a picture, Ava or Eva. So you can think of it like maybe in a year or so, in a couple of years, you will have AI team members in your team, and you'll be working with AI team members. Yeah, they will be simple, but they will be there, and they will be very useful. And so this is the AI agents everywhere. Okay, and this is something which is happening other than AI colleagues or whatever. Everyone is trying to really automate everything, and that's really a problem. Even simple things, people are trying to put agents. Okay, and really, one key question is, do you really need an AI agent, right? Because see, many things are straightforward workflows. First this happens, then this happens, then this happens, right? It is clear what tools to be used. It is clear exactly what is to be done. Maybe some decision, if else or whatever, that is done, right? That is a standard AI, which is straightforward, simple. But when you use an AI agent, you complicate things quite a bit. And I have an example on this. So recently, a few months ago, I was building something. It was actually a chat bot, which is supposed to do a couple of things based on interaction with the user. And in my mind, it was a very simple thing. You take the user input, you have one of two conditions. It either does this or does that. There's no third option, really. So it's a straightforward, conditional thing, a straightforward function call. Okay, if this, then do that. Otherwise, do this, right? But the other person, the friend who was working on this, was like, this is for AI agents, and AI agents will do this very easily. And she starts putting code for an agent, and this was several months ago, so code was also not so, let's say, clean then, and it's not working. And there is debugging going on, and we don't know exactly what is going on. And finally, it's like, okay, let's do that agent thing later. Let's just get this job done right now using the standard code, right? So that's how it can be. So bringing AI agents in straightforward tasks is unnecessary complication at many times. And if you feel that, okay, I want to use an AI agent, but you realize that what you're doing is hard coding many things. There's not a lot of variety or not a lot of decisioning, dynamic decisioning happening, right? Then maybe you don't need an AI agent. In fact, a friend told me that, I've been using this, what was it? Make.com. Make.com is for automations, right? I've been using Make for a long time now. I've been doing this. I never knew this was AI, right? And because now even that is considered AI. But some of these things are simple automations, not necessarily with AI. They don't need AI. And force-fitting AI is unnecessary complication, which doesn't help in any way. It only makes things more difficult. All right. So that's what AI agent. And then I think about agents, I think this is something to do with Vivek's question earlier. When do you use AI agent is when you need dynamic decision making. There is multiple steps in a task. You need to, something goes wrong, you need to see what's happening, you need to go back and forth. So that kind of a workflow, there you need this, okay, where you want adaptability, there's dynamic interaction going on. That's where you really you want to use this, okay. Where you don't want to use is this when things are complex to maintain and deploy, especially when you're using multiple agents together. Orchestrating them is difficult. It goes fine when things are running good, but the moment there's an error, debugging can be a nightmare. Things are getting better and better, but at this point, still not something I would recommend, right? For many simple tasks, this is like pure overkill. You just don't need this. The third thing is that, okay, because these are large language model based things, large language models have their biases. So the bias continues, right? So these are also biased. And consistency is not guaranteed. So you run the agent, you get this thing, you run it again, you might get slightly different, who knows, right? But yeah, that is also something. For now, there is low decision transparency. This might change. This is changing, but for now, at least, you're not very sure exactly why this thing happened, especially multiple thing. Okay, so and this dynamic interaction, so external resources kind of a thing can also be achieved using function calls in a, let's say, usual way, right, without the complexity. Okay. So this tells you about agents. I hope this gives you a fair idea of where we are in terms of agents. They are good. They are being used everywhere, but they're still not so mature that you can rely on them. And you need some guides, maybe some. And there's this nice link. I will share this perhaps here right now, but maybe it's a better idea. But there is a link which tells you. Okay, it's just a good guide on how to use AI agents essentially. Okay, now let me go back. Right, so that was about agents. And let me know if you have any questions, folks. All right, if not, I'll just talk of some key developments, and I'll be quick on these because these are not just like, okay, what is happening kind of a thing. Number one, right, definitely the tech is now very highly accessible. Many no-code solutions have come up. And earlier, what was difficult now is like kid stuff now, right? Anyone can just go do some drag and drop stuff and even build basic level AI agents without much effort, right? It's very straightforward now. That's one good thing. It's not only some specific developers now, anyone can do this, right? And you can also try this out yourself. There's multiple tools. You can look at Cloudflare, has a multimodal playground. You can check it out. You can drag and drop thing. You can make connections between things, and you can see the output as well. Okay. Yeah. The other nice development, very interesting development, was OpenAI releasing Operator. Yeah. And they're not the only one. Quen, the vision models from Quen, they also have now this operator kind of capability. Anthropic did this, I imagine, I suppose. So there's multiple players going on this operator kind of a model where you give control to the system, basically to the LLM based system, and you just tell me, okay, now book a flight for me from Germany to Brazil, for example, and say, okay, I want it on these dates and I want the budget to be so. The large language model based system will understand the task. It now has access to your browser. It will open a new browser window. It will interact with the website almost like how a human would, right? And it does okay, I suppose. It is not perfect at all. It needs a lot of work. Some tasks are simple, some tasks are not so simple. But it's a good start. It's a very interesting development, really. Is agent different from an operator? So I think operator is just specific terminology which they are using. You can think of it as a very advanced agent as well, with much more capabilities. However, an agent can be very simple also, with very few limited scope as well, right? Without all of these tools, maybe it just find some latest stocks for you based on your criteria and put some money over there, right? But yeah, agent operator is a very special type of agent. It's a subset, perhaps, in a way. Okay, right. So this is a very interesting development, and multiple players are doing this now. Like I said, it's not perfect right now. Perhaps in 6 months or so, this will be much, much better. Okay. Now, the other big thing which has already happened, all of the big players are doing a lot on platforms. So now, when this whole thing began, it was like, oh, this model is available on Google, this model is available there. If I want to do certain thing, I cannot do it on Amazon. I need to go to Google only, right? But now it's like there is some sort of a parity. All the major models are available on all the platforms. All the platforms want you to use their platform. All the big players want to use their platform and make it attractive, giving you credits and whatnot. So all the big players are moving towards platforms. They want you to be in their system, right? That's very important for them. And yeah, in terms of this whole LLMs and RAGs and agent stuff, where we are, right, practically is that last year there was retrieval augmented generation, RAGs, but RAGs are now maturing quite a bit. Now we are close to having like more reliable RAGs with more control, because earlier RAGs were like all over the place. They were just, they were not good really. The people were demoing them, but they were not good. They were unstable. But now RAGs are becoming more and more mature, and this discipline is developing on using this. Agents, like I said earlier, active work on agents. There's tons of agent frameworks now. There's a tendency to automate everything. It's just not so good. Okay. Evaluation, when you build a large language model based system, evaluation is of course a big topic, whether it works as intended or not. Evaluation has improved. There are many benchmarks and standardized scoring approaches. However, for more industry specific use cases, it's still tricky because it needs a lot of work on the side of the person using this solution to develop those, and they may not know how to design an evaluation data set very well also, right? So this is always a tricky thing in regular AI as well. It is just more tricky with GenAI. And another pattern is that, okay, small language models are, I think this is something which I've been talking about again and again, but yeah, specialized small language models are really very important, and you'll see a lot of them instead of like huge generic large language models. And this is really the differentiator. You'll see a lot of them in This is how you unlock like very high levels of accuracy for certain domains. Okay. In terms of regulation, EU, in the European Union, the EU AI Act gets a lot of criticism because people say it hampers progress, but it is what it is. There are many initiatives going on. There's education going on. The EU Product Liability Directive, which generally is a liability directive, like, my thing harms you, what should be done, and so on, liability and stuff, that has been updated to include AI stuff as well. So that's just one positive development, perhaps. But yeah, overall, EU regulation is still like, it's comprehensive, but it is also kind of like, people say it is very restrictive. Okay. USA, the moment Donald Trump became president, you all must have heard multiple executive orders one day. And Donald Trump repeals executive order on safe, secure, and trustworthy development and use of AI. I still don't, I'm not sure how it will play out really, but yeah. But overall, it does seem like there is some sort, it's not great for the topic of regulation, because on the other side, the government also says that they will reduce the number of federal agencies. There's like 400 odd agencies, and that is going to be reduced to 90 odd. And you don't know how many of these AI related or safety related agencies will even remain, right? You have no idea. So we wait and watch what happens. But yes, they need to balance regulation versus all the investment, right? They have to take this to become global leaders, right? I mean, they just announced 500 billion target project, right, to to lead AI globally, and then of course the next day this whole DeepSeek thing happens. But still, they do have intent to lead globally, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do in terms of safety and, let's say trustworthy AI. And globally also, South Korea passes the AI Act. China pledges to adopt 50 AI standards by the next year. Brazil's Senate votes to approve AI bill. So all over the world, this is kind of coming in place. AI regulation is coming up. And of course, these are big markets, right? Even if you're developing a solution, you're developing it for them, or perhaps you're working for a company based in the USA or the EU or whatever, right? So these will come and affect you eventually. Okay. So overall, this is what is happening. Things are getting real. Technology is maturing, and we have seen very impressive technical developments in the past months. And you can't ignore ethics and compliance anymore. This is becoming a big topic worldwide, and leadership folks really need to act to empower their team, their organizations, and so on. Okay, that's what mainly, right? And to deliver value as a decision maker or a leader or as a team lead or whatever, right? What you need to do really at this point is, one, you have to understand the technology better. You cannot make decisions without that. It is a bare minimum you need to do, right? You need to rethink your AI and data strategy. Like, what are you doing? Which projects are you focusing on? Which initiatives do you prioritize, right? And this whole thing, one of the biggest problems is, oh yes, this technology is extremely promising, but I don't see any value. Like, where do we get the value, right? Which project should I prioritize? This is again a big topic. You need to understand the risks and the ethical considerations, of course, and you have to be effective leaders. So increase your productivity, manage change in the organization, and empower your teams. Okay. And how you do this, of course, for this, I have an amazing course. And this starts very soon. This is called GenAI for Leadership on Maven. And it's from Feb 6 to Feb 23rd. And I would definitely, if some of you have not gone through this course, please go through this. I think it's super helpful. You can see it has a near perfect rating, right? 4.9 out of 27 ratings out of 5, of course. So this is well received. We have a lot of guests coming in as well, and we have inputs from 30 plus leaders to design this to make it valuable, and it has been well received. Yeah, and at this point, you can also scan the QR code. You get a 40% discount. So that's also something to benefit from, right? But yeah, definitely. I would say, yeah, Mahima, thank you, Mahima. Mahima says I attended the course and it's awesome. Yeah, thanks for the call out. Yeah, so yeah, please, something I was, not just because it's a course I made, but in general, I do feel that, okay, this is something valuable, and I personally myself would have love to have undergone such a course when I was on my journey, right? So yeah, please consider this course. And yeah, and if you like this webinar and stuff, I'll probably be doing more webinars later on different topics, not just for this course, but in general, knowledge sharing and stuff. So yeah, maybe, add me on LinkedIn. Let's stay in touch. You will hear from me on LinkedIn. You'll see me sharing videos and whatnot in the next coming weeks, and always reachable, always ask me questions. So